patriarchy and colonialism. So today I'm going to have Fiona Phoenix Fire, who is a glass blowing artist out of, I believe they're out of Oregon right now. So yeah, I'm going to invite them in. Okay. I just sent you. Okay, there we go.
There's the other side of my room. 1 second.
Hello. Thank you for joining me today. I really appreciate you.
Thank you so much for the invitation. I'm happy to be talking with you today.
Awesome. Okay, let's just get started with a little prayer that I like to do every time while the sage is still burning. So I want to send prayers for anybody out there that's suffering from domestic violence issues. I want to send prayers out there for anybody that is suffering from mental health issues. I want to send prayers to any of our ancestors that have passed on to the spirit realm. I want to put love out there for yourselves for being here today. And above all else, I want to put love and prayers out there for our precious Mother Earth. So thank you so much, Fiona, for joining me today. So first, I just want to get us started with a little intro about yourself and who you are and where you're from. I was reading your little stuff on Etsy, but we'll just go from there.
For sure. So I was born in Kumeyaay territory down in Southern California. I've been living in the Pacific Northwest, in the land currently called Oregon, traditional homelands of the Takelma people, which is Southern Oregon, currently called Ashland. My people are from all over. I have Cherokee ancestors on my mother's side, Irish ancestors on my father's side, and like a pretty healthy mix of other European ancestors as well.
Awesome. So are you connected in any way to, we'll ask this question here later, and I was reading that in you try to work it into your work, but do you have any connection to the reservations or anything over there or anything like that?
So I have cultivated relationships in my adult life with chosen relatives, you know, who are still living and working on reservations across the country. I don't have any direct connections with my lineage because of the European whitewash of our family's history. So the Native members of my family were not allowed to enroll. They wanted to just pass, and they were encouraged to pass. And so the paper trail for my lineage is pretty cold, but that certainly hasn't stopped me from prioritizing just making relationships today with anyone who is an Indigenous neighbor and with the local community. And so my mom is working a little bit. Actually, she moved out to Oklahoma where the Cherokee Reservation is, and she's working on the paperwork of it all and hoping to.
That's amazing, and it's never too late to start finding that heritage. You know, I'm adopted, so but I grew up my whole life with the Pomo people, so that's what I say. Like I don't have any direct line to who my dad was or what tribe he was from, but I say in my heart I'm a Pomo person. So like I hear what I'm connected to where I grew up, and then the family that chose me, and you know.
Yeah. Pardon the dogs. It's enough. Come. I have a 1-year-old puppy here who's very excitable. So.
Awesome. I love doggos.
Me too. But I have always felt the deep call to reconnect to indigeneity, and not just on the Native American side. That voice has been the loudest because that's the land I'm on, and that the spirit of the land that has come through these people and these cultures is the most present. But a big part of my journey is also to reconcile the European settler part of my ancestry and recognizing that longer time, that lineage has been colonized and its indigeneity has been erased and replaced with this colonial system of power that offers some privileges, yes, and is also, it's tricky because that word privilege also erases all the pain and genocide of those lineages too. And so I've more recently been looking into like the Celtic heritage that I carry as well, and interested in harmonizing those parts of myself and not hating the part that was colonized longer but came to be the colonizer more recently.
Absolutely. I was supposed to interview a tattoo artist by the name of Mossy Fable, and he was saying they're from a certain tribe in somewhere in Europe, and I just like completely forgot that like at one point in time there are, like you're saying, Celtic tribes. There's all kind of tribes everywhere, but like this colonized or way of thinking, like kind of completely like forgot about those original tribes in Europe and stuff like that, in Ireland, and stuff. Yeah, I completely forgot about it.
Right. Well, they were colonized so long that they repeated the cycle in new places with new people, and because the wound of colonization wasn't healed, it was just paved over, and they were given this other culture to practice, which is violent and oppressive and based on building empire.
Absolutely. Okay, I want to, like we said in the beginning, I want to talk about your art, because you're an amazing glass blower, and I saw some of the pipes. And then, is that what you call them? I don't want to call them the wrong thing. You call them pipes?
Thank you for asking. Most people do just throw it out as a peace pipe, but I call them ceremonial pipes.
Okay.
The shape is definitely inspired by traditional pipes, but I mean, traditional ceremony pipes come from all around the world, and they're an ancient tool that all the ancestors used. They're certainly intended as a tool for ritual and ceremony, to use the form to remind folks to interact with their shush shush. Oh, the dog relatives.
Doggo's against the doggo's down to decolonize. He wants to get his voice in there too.
That's right. Anyway, so the form is certainly intended to remind folks that the plants are our relatives. They are our teachers. We can have a really powerful experience with our plant teachers when we take the time to think about them, be thoughtful with them, have a relationship with them in the same way we would have a relationship with human beings.
Absolutely.
And so yeah, that's the thrust of my work, is to make pieces that invite people into a sense of sacredness and ceremony, and that they're connected that way, no matter their heritage.
Absolutely. I love it. So how long have you been blowing glass for?
I've been blowing glass seriously since 2011. I was first introduced in 2010 when I met my now partner. I'm going to see if I can close the door. Do you mind if I step away for just a moment?
That's fine.
Okay, the dog. Hopefully that'll help with the noise. So I was at a small community gathering to visit a friend, and she introduced me to a young man named Turtle, and he's a glass blower. And I had never seen lamp working before. I'd seen hot glass, which is the big shop, the big furnace. It's usually a team of people, big long metal punty, big old globs of glass on the end of a big old long glass metal tube. So that's soft glass. And lamp working is a torch that's mounted on the tabletop, and a highly concentrated beam of fire. It looks like a lightsaber. And so you work the glass around that stationary torch.
Wow.
And yeah, I'd never seen it before. I'd bought my first pipe from a head shop maybe the year before, and I had no idea that pipe was probably made by a local artist in the Pacific Northwest. There are thousands of glass blowers, specifically pipe makers, and I had no concept that there's a whole community of people making these just like in my backyard, until I met Turtle and saw his work. And I was immediately just deeply compelled by both him and by the medium, and was so full of inspiration and kept on. When I would watch him work, I would say, oh, it could be this, you could do that, you could do this. It's like, if you're having all these ideas about what it could be, then maybe like you want to make it things. Maybe you want to make it what it could be. And so he supported me that way in getting started.
Wow. Did you do any art like before that, or did you like? Because are you a
Mm-hmm.
painter or anything like that?
Performing arts actually has been the biggest passion since I can remember. Um, but yes, also poetry, also painting, charcoal, pastels. I have the desire to create has been with me my whole life. And I was so grateful to find a medium that was so intriguing and challenging, but also rewarding, and carried a really special cultural significance because it matched my desire to participate in a larger community conversation, a social cultural conversation.
Wow, that's amazing. Yeah, what goes into, because I've seen like you're saying like when they're blowing glass and there's a big bubble at the end. But what goes
Mm-hmm.
into making these smaller, more intricate like pipes? Because glass blowing is wild to me. It's like that's so scary to have such a hot thing there, and you're like mostly that's wild to me.
It is. It's pretty wild. Glass blowing as an art form has been around for thousands of years. And so lamp working, we have, our raw materials come in either the form of a hollow tube or a solid rod.
Hmm.
And with those things combined with other like metal or carbon tools, we use the air pressure in hollow form to expand or contract the glass, through mostly a glass tube. I'll attach a smaller glass tube to the larger glass tube that I'm going to work with. There's ways to build up tubing from the solid rod. There's blow-ins and coil plotting. So it's just a buildup of those things, and there are hundreds of techniques for coloring the glass, putting in patterns, doing attachments, building a larger structure out of smaller components, or taking a large mass and using that and sculpting that into a shape or a piece.
Wow. Do you only make bongs, or have you ever made pipes? Do you make bongs too?
I've been playing with water pipes for a couple of years. I have run into a couple of obstacles. I prefer to smoke out of dry pipes. That's my preference. Really. I love making dry hand pipes. It's my favorite. And I appreciate water pipes, and I do enjoy them on occasion, but I have not found the form that really speaks to me and feels like good medicine to me. There's a lot of different shapes and forms of water pipes that live in the world already, and in the glass industry, there's a lot of pressure to be hype and heady and to do certain techniques like recyclers and and that's all great, but it also just isn't what I care about. Obviously function matters for a pipe, but the form matters the most to me. And so I'm still playing with ways that I can tuck the water function into the form that I'm excited about. But glass is a really steep learning curve, and it's expensive. The raw materials are expensive. The electricity to run the kiln is expensive. It's a high overhead, and so it's a balance to explore new territory, to have the time, the energy, and the budget to play.
Mm-hmm.
It's important to have that and make time for that and make that a priority. And there's all of the other pressures on my time and energy and resources to be, productive according to economic participation. So
yeah, I didn't think about that. The electricity that goes into it, everything else that goes into it, obviously your time. Yeah, because I love a good water pipe. I'm a sucker for those. But yeah, is there any? Obviously, you're still learning about your cultural stuff from the Cherokee Nation. Is there anything that you've learned so far that you try to artistically put into your pieces?
well, I don't think it's unique to the Cherokee tribe, but my biggest opportunities to practice anything traditional or cultural have actually come through a local uncle from the Ochumaway tribe, just south of us here, like maybe 20 miles east of Mount Shasta. And so, I mean, I've had an opportunity to, do some sweat lodges and bear dances and, be in some traditional spaces that way. But this the attitude of coming to my work and trying to come to everyday life, but especially my work because it's such an intense environment and a high stakes um, job, to bring my awareness and my presence and bring that sense of ceremony to the making of the pipes. And so, burning a little plant medicine for a smoke clearing, saying a little prayer, just taking that time to ground and center, honor the directions. Um, those little things they're not little things. They just don't take a lot of time necessarily to integrate them into a more regular practice, but they are definitely a big part of my sessions when I'm in the shop and, and around the house with my kiddo. I have a 6-year-old son. And so, I find ways to pull that sense of sacredness and connectedness and prayerfulness into life wherever possible.
That's amazing. I love it because when you give that prayer and you burn that sage or whatever you're burning for, it goes into that pipe, or it goes into your work, and that love and that prayer goes into that. That's why I like to start like every episode with a prayer, just because I hope the sage can take us in a direction of healing and having a good conversation.
Absolutely. Yep. Cedar. We do a lot of cedar out here.
Okay. That's what. Yeah, out here we're burning sage, but
Sage too. But,
okay. Yeah. Do you go out and collect the cedar or?
Yeah, we collect the cedar here. I just, it's abundant. It's super abundant. So I just take a little tobacco out and, lay a little medicine down. Or if I don't have tobacco, when I find some and it feels like it's a time to collect, then I make a little water offering from my canteen. Just anything I can do, to make it right. But I connected with a brother from, like Fresno area, and Alexa, cancel. I got the most like sidekicks. Dogs and robots. Anyway, so I was able to acquire some white sage seeds that I'm cultivating right now, just in my own garden to grow and to have a relationship with, because that's a big part of why I don't get to use sage as much, as I don't have an appropriate source for it all the time.
Yeah, same here. I actually just ran out. I'm almost running out, and then I was doing some yard work for my friend's mom, and then like I pulled some weeds back, and then there's a huge sage bush growing there. I was like, "Whoa, this is awesome!" So like, yeah, I don't have to look anymore. Just go straight to that spot. Yeah, I love it, and it's on a friend's property, so I feel good picking it and taking it.
You get to have a relationship with it, with the people in the land. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, and she doesn't mind. She's down for it. She's like, pick me some too.
Yeah, great. That's beautiful.
So I kind of want to move on to the next question. Decolonize. What does decolonize mean to you? And then we'll move on to what does land back mean to you. So yeah, we'll go ahead with that first one.
So decolonize to me means the process of becoming aware of colonization, both in the systems around us, the relationships between us and other people, and the way we think about ourselves. And the other side of decolonization is like re-indigenizing, is to remember our roots and to become aware of the practices of the ones who are originally the caretakers of the land we're on, and to become respectful allies to those people and understanding those cultures, because they're still alive, still here, still happening, even if by a thread. Like this uncle Jack down in outside of Shasta, he's the only one in his family practicing anything traditional. And not that traditional is the only way to be native or to decolonize, but it is an important thread to preserve the culture that the genocide is against. So there's the preservation of those traditional ways, as well as looking to re-indigenize the systems and relationships that we interact with currently, being in reciprocity with our human and more than human relatives, finding ways in our personal lives and in our civic lives to honor the balance of all life, to remember that we are not above or below any other part of the hoop of life, and to reimagine ourselves as a sacred and beautiful and precious part of a sacred, beautiful, precious network, and that we are on a journey of coming back into right relationship with that network. It's a super personal, it's a deep, it's a way of understanding ourselves, and framing up how we're going to engage with the world around us. That's the spirit we had in.
I love it, and like you said, speaking of the original people that lived in certain areas, right here in Santa Cruz, I'm in Santa Cruz, and Amamutsan, I was asked to give a land acknowledgement last weekend, but because there was no active members of the Amamutsan tribe that live here in Santa Cruz. So they don't even have a place where a center they can go to. They don't, like, things like that is wild. There's a mission still standing here, but no cultural center for the Amamutsan tribe in Santa Cruz.
Yeah.
So things like that we need to change. Like, they recently removed one of the bells or something, but like, to me, that's just not enough. You know, the Amamutsan tribe, they have no literal place for them to come and be in their cultural gathering spaces. You know, like you're saying, people gather cedar up north, but they don't have anything to gather here. They probably don't even know what they once did gather.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So that kind of jumps into land back, you know. And I know you're Southern California, correct? And what tribe is down there, did you say?
I don't think I'm saying it right because I've only seen it written, but Kumeyaay.
Yeah, Kumeyaay, I think. I believe.
Yeah.
Yeah. I wonder if they have a reservation or if they're federally recognized down there. But yeah, what is your definition of land back?
Well, I see like these little glimmers of the process of land back. Like we're seeing national parks. They're pulling in the original people of the land to help manage national parks. But, you know, when you tell me like things about like that mission, like that's the first thing that should go back. Like that spot, those bricks, that, you know, that's a place where the trauma was deeply anchored. And so that is such a powerful place to be. Like, that needs to belong. That needs to be the land, their cultural center could, you know, not that building would feel like be a good place to feel and be, but, you know, like, let's ask that community what they want to do with that.
Yeah.
Right. And I have this fantasy in terms of like a broader populist movement, because we can't wait for the government. We can't trust the government to do anything meaningful. So like the parks thing is nice, but how do we get a little bit more creative and a little bit more radical with returning sovereignty and repatriating the indigenous systems of wisdom and government over a land? I have this fantasy about a huge movement to become asylum seekers to the local indigenous tribes, so that anybody, any American citizen, can seek asylum and potentially become adopted, and all of their tax revenue and any property that they own would become the purview of the tribal council. And like, I don't know if this is like a science fiction book that somebody needs to write or something, but I'm like, how do we get the average person to give their land back. And I think that with the political climate that we're experiencing in this country, like, I don't want to be a citizen of the United States. I'm over it. No, it's so violent. It's so dangerous. It's so toxic. It's so corrupt. It's not safe to be a part of institution, and it really hasn't been unless you were a rich white guy from the very beginning. So
Yeah.
what is a creative path for those of us who are being crushed on the wheel of capitalism and colonialism? How do we reallocate our lives, our bodies, our work, our resources, and land we might have the paperwork to, and shift that to be back under the umbrella of Indigenous sovereignty? And anyway, so
Yeah, I think that's a situation people aren't like really ready for, because they think they hear land back and they're like, I have to go. They're sending me back. Like, where the fuck are we gonna send you back to? Like, we're all so mixed at this point that like we can't just start sending people back to places. That's just like ridiculous. That's outrageous. But one thing I like to like I had somebody on here from the Navajo Nation, and they told me 39% of the Navajo Nation doesn't have water. So think about all these cities that I'm living in the city of Santa Cruz. I guarantee, like, majority of the city has access to clean water. And during COVID, they weren't able to wash their hands. They weren't able to mask up in some situations. So it's like it's a really tough situation. Like, we don't want you to go back anywhere. We just want the same amenities that you have in your household.
Well, and a little bit of cultural space held for an Indigenous community is a lot of wisdom that can be shared and integrated and become the new normal culture in America. You know, if small spaces can be held where none are being held currently, for Indigenous and allies to come together and learn traditional wisdom and dream and work together to be in better balance with our food systems, our water systems, our relational systems, our medicine systems. Like, if we can create places to come together and do that work together, it makes the old systems that are currently in power obsolete. And, you know, I think a condition of being an asylum seeker in my head, these are the terms I'm coming to because it's, I don't know why. It's just the terms I've come to. To be in a program like that would require participation. You know, like, if you want to be an American citizen, you have to learn, you know, the history and the songs, right?
Yeah.
So what if there's a process to go, actually, America, you can have that. I'm gonna, you know, I have ancestors from all over the world at this point, but I'm living on Tequilma land. So can I come to the Tequilma people and say, hi, the country I was born into is a violent and dangerous place, and I would like to be a productive member of this community in this land. And can you teach me how to be, you know, here's my resource, here's my privileges, right? I come with these privileges, and I'm going to put those on the table for us to share and use collaboratively. I feel like there has to be a way in every community on every land for people, no matter where they come from, to be in right relationship with the original people, and just by participating in the culture and moving our bodies and our resources into that space, it dries up the resources for the other system and infuses more balanced ways of being into culture.
Yeah. And I believe in Oklahoma, and this is just a small step, in Oklahoma, there's a certain reservation that they don't allow the Oklahoma state flag to be flown on the reservation. Is only like the Cherokee flag, Cherokee Nation flag, I believe, which is amazing. You know, that's just a step forward to, like you're kind of saying, like, in these areas, in these lands, yeah, we were forced to these reservations, but we're taking over there. And we don't want anything that you have built or organized, or, like you're saying, these patriarchal colonial systems to come in and ruin what we have here.
Yeah, let's just not recognize the authority of the American apparatus and say, actually, this is a totally sovereign space. And even like in a town, I live in a town of like 20,000 people. If 10% of the people who own land here repatriated the land back to like indigenous purview, and whatever income, like taxes or whatever that would have gone to the American government instead gets diverted to the tribal purposes, like that would make a huge difference in the landscape here. And you know, it doesn't mean you have to leave the place that you live. It means that you are sharing the place you live, and you get to be on the place still.
I think in this individual like way of life is gonna really make that hard for people, because they want that paper that says it's mine.
Mm-hmm. And here's the little edges. Here's the edges of this land that's mine. And it doesn't matter that the roots from the other plants come across in that line. It doesn't matter that the water flows and the rain falls and the animals like just that concept of chopping the land up like that. It's such a colonial concept, and it's deeply liberating and comforting to recognize that it's all a glorious, magnificent wholeness that we are a part of. So it would be like chopping your own hand off and selling that for a profit. Like, ew, David.
It's pretty wild. So is there, I know this is a huge topic right now. I didn't send it over in the questions, but it just came up. Obviously the Roe versus Wade things. And like you're saying, it's a scary place for women who identify as women, two-spirit people, trans people, and this is a situation where males can speak up as well, because we're 50% of the situation. So yeah, I just want to kind of obviously see your thoughts about the situation going on now. Yeah, go ahead.
Well, I'm having a lot of emotional reactions to it. But pretty quick, I came right back to the idea that this whole thing, this whole system, the government and laws are all just designed to maximize profit, and they do that on the bodies of everyone. And the answer to facing this level of dehumanization and oppression and real violence, I mean, it's deeply violent to a woman to not let her choose.
And like you said, if you're not a Christian white male, it's like this, nothing's really set up for anybody else but that demographic person.
Yeah. And the most likely folks to have an unwanted pregnancy are the most vulnerable in our society, because of the way our society is built on white supremacy and oligarchs running the show on the backs of the working class and poor. And so I'm having a lot of heavy reactions to it, but it still comes back to me to the journey of decolonization, of like, that system that says that isn't legitimate. That's a fucking, part of my language. It's just not it's not a valid body. It's not theirs to say. This land is not their land to rule. My body is not their body to dictate what I should do. And if I could push all of my weight behind anything, it's the same answer. It's becoming in right relationship with the people on the land and all the relatives. And it almost has nothing to do with the system, the Supreme Court that says this or that, you know, like that's all happening on top of us. But I think the answer is still within us and between us. And it's a very direct and visceral process that we're because, you know, the system can't hold itself accountable, not correct itself. It was designed to concentrate wealth and power for a few people, and it's working perfectly well. And So I have a little bit of apathy on participating and voting and being all like, I still vote, and I also don't recognize the system as legitimate. And I don't see it ever being able to correct itself or be corrected by the people.
So I think I was 27. I'm 29 now. Yeah, I was 27 the first time I voted because like my whole stance was I'm not going to contribute to a system that completely tried to wipe my people out, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And like, yeah, it's wild. Like I don't want to contribute to these. It's like, what is it saying? It's two wings of the same shit bird or whatever.
Exactly.
So it's a tough decision because like when I first started this, one of the questions I would ask is like, how do you feel about Indigenous people getting more involved in politics?
Mm-hmm.
But like, it's like, I stopped asking that question because like, I don't really know if I want us to get involved in it, but like we have to, because there has to be policy changes and there has to be things to be changed. And I don't want us to have to continue to protest, to continue to get shot by rubber bullets, to continue to be tear gassed.
Yes.
Like there has to be another way up for us to take this shit over. But like, I don't want to be a part of the system, you know? So it
is. Yeah, because in the ideal, having more people that are understanding of the situation in positions of power should make a difference. And it's an incredibly hopeful thing to do, to participate that way. And so I know I'm a little salty today because of Roe v. Wade. So it's a little bit like, it's all trash. I really, I mean, the hope and the hope of that is inspired by seeing women like Deb Haaland and her cohort come in is heartening, but it doesn't feel like the fastest way to the goal. And I guess I'm a little impatient, and so my mind wants to say like, we need to just go ahead and burn that down real quick, and like, actually, let's split up. 10 of you go burn it down, and the 90 of us are going to be here stoking the home fire and putting the systems in place and affirming the systems here that are going to work. The same day that the decision was handed down to overturn Roe v. Wade, a friend of mine went to La Clinica, which is our state-run healthcare doctor's office, and they had a whole bunch of amazing fresh produce available for people to just take. Local farms had brought it there, and it had this flash of like, here is a system that is not perfect, but it's a collective collaborative effort for the resources of the people for the people to get healthcare, and it's becoming a hub for other resources to be accessed, like beautiful local clean food for the community. And this is how, these are the kinds of systems that create resilience and safety, and plenty for everyone. And so remembering to look for and find the ways that our communities are already doing that work, and to put my energy and my weight behind the things that are already happening, that are building the new networks that are based on the old wisdoms.
That's amazing. And that's building a community too, because here in Santa Cruz last week, there was the Juneteenth paddle out. And for like people that identify as Black or Indigenous or as any people of color, you got to rent a suit, a surfboard, and anything else you needed that day for free. So like things like that. So like, you know what I mean? That sense of community and that sense of yeah. And then when we were out in the water, there's a couple people that had never been out in the water or never been on the surfboard, and then they would have a lifeguard and stuff, and then the joy on their face was just like amazing. A couple of things I heard was, I feel weightless, or I feel effortless, and like to have people feel like that for the first time is amazing. And to see that community once they get out of the water, hear them talking about it, and like that's what I'm talking about is I want to be a part of those types of types of communities.
Well, and that's decolonization too, because being in the water is an ancient birthright. Like having safety and culturally significant experiences that involve getting in the waters, like that's such deep ancient medicine, and so many folks don't have access, and it's a deep wound of the psyche. And when we get to reconnect with the mother waters that way and do it in community, in safety, like the healing and the excitement and the energy that gets unlocked for creative purposes, like life-giving, sacred work, is so big. And so I'm taking a lot of comfort in things like that. And I just want with all of my heart, I've been towards that work, and anything I do to create opportunities for myself to remember and for others who don't know yet.
Yeah.
They also belong to the land and the waters, and they also belong to all of us. We belong to each other.
Absolutely.
And that's the medicine I'm here for. So.
And like their big thing is taking back the outdoors, because for here in Santa Cruz, surfing is a white sport. You know, it's a predominantly white sport. I mean, majority of places everywhere, you know, it's a white sport. So they're just encouraging people of color just to get out there and surf and get out in the outdoors, such as hiking and things like that. Because I grew up on the reservation, and I know hunting, like, we did it, but it wasn't like a huge thing where you go, you're going to learn how to hunt, you're going to learn how to skin, you're going to learn how to do everything traditional. You know, like, that's just coming back here in the last, like, 5 or 6 years, you know. So it's and that's the thing that we used to do every single day of our ancestors did every single day to survive. You know, and at a certain point, we're reliant on these commodities. We're reliant on just food being given to us, all these bad fast foods, you know. So it's like, it's good to see these communities building these things to get back in nature, to get back in like you said, the water. So it's amazing.
Absolutely.
Because a lot of California tribes the water is a huge thing for them. The ocean is a huge thing for them. So it's amazing. And yeah.
Every coastal community, yeah, and I mean communities that around lakes and rivers, like those are the hearts of the communities.
Absolutely. And was there any other topics that I didn't bring up that you would want to bring up? Any future projects that you want people to know about? Yeah, any events that you're going to be at selling your art, or is it all online?
You know, I actually do very little online these days. I have an Etsy shop. I have a link in my bio, but I think Etsy has just really been throttling back on American work, actually. First of all, there's like so much import stuff happening on Etsy now. And then also anything that's tobacco related is getting kind of like a shadow ban vibes. So the next place I'm showing work in person is the Oregon Country Fair. That's coming up in 2 weeks here in Oregon. That's a really fun one. And you know, we have a super busy summer ahead. I'm a part of a collaborative community building effort. We just, a small team of us, purchased a couple acres of land out in the Applegate Valley on the Applegate River. And so we're going to be building a glass blowing studio out there and moving out there. So most of the summer is going to be about that project. And so that's one of the ways that we're looking at how do we work inside of the system that exists, and how do we make it possible for our community to have a safe place to have a relationship with the land in perpetuity. And my goals are to repatriate the land to the local tribe as soon as we can figure out how that actually works and looks. So yeah, I will be showing a little bit of work at the festival this summer, and I'll be posting stuff online. And I'm really inspired by your project. Actually, this podcast is super cool, and I've been working for a long time on some concepts around like a YouTube channel or something to to bring more of these conversations out, because I think people need to hear it. And that's my biggest passion. And the shape that I make the glass is really all just about talking about these things. So maybe I should just also be just talking about these things with people.
Absolutely. If you ever do it, I'll come on. I'll come on and talk with you, and
Yeah.
definitely encourage more people to start things like this. Get as many stories as possible, because like what I really wanted to do is, if nobody's gonna create platforms for us or create our history or tell our history correctly, I'll interview people from these tribes that the information has been passed down to,
Mm-hmm.
generation after generation. And also, yeah, I just want to just get our stories heard in any way possible. I want to create a platform for us, because there's not many platforms that exist where natives can go. I want to go watch more natives.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
So
Yeah.
thank you so much for joining me today. I really appreciate you. And I'll post this and I'll tag you and also post it to YouTube as well. So
Awesome. Thank you so much. I super appreciate your work and for inviting me here today.
thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
All right. Blessings.
Thank you. Thank you guys so much for joining me on the live. Thank you, Fiona, for joining me as well. If anybody has any stories they want to get out there, if anybody wants to join me, please definitely tap in with me, and we'll get something going. Yahui, Yake Apere. Thank you to the creator for allowing us to be here today, and peace and love.